All right, so today we are going deep into one of modern medicine's greatest tricks. We're talking about how antibiotics can stop a nasty bacterial infection right in its tracks. And the best way to think about it? It's like an industrial espionage mission, a complete hostile takeover of a bacteria's most critical facility.
I mean, you've probably been there, right? You get sick, the doctor gives you an antibiotic, you take the pill, and a few days later, you feel better. But have you ever stopped to wonder what's actually happening on a microscopic level? How does that one little pill wage war against, trillions of invading cells? Well, it turns out it's this incredible story of targeted microscopic sabotage.
So, to stop any enemy, you've got to find their weak point, right? And for a whole bunch of bacteria, that ultimate target is their protein factory. This isn't just any part of the cell. No. This is the command center, the main production hub. It's the heart of their entire operation.
And here it is. This is the ribosome. Just look at it. You can think of this little machine as the factory floor, and it is constantly churning out proteins. And these proteins, they're the building blocks for literally everything the bacterium does, from building its cell walls to copying its own DNA. So the logic is simple. Shut down this factory, and you shut down the bacterium for good.
Okay, so the process this whole factory runs on is called protein synthesis, and really, it's just like a microscopic assembly line. It takes the blueprint, the instructions from the bacteria's DNA, and uses it to build these complex molecules, one little piece at a time. Now, to really get how the sabotage works, we've got to first understand how this assembly line operates when everything's running smoothly.
So here's how it all goes down in a normal, healthy bacterium. First, you have this little delivery truck. It's called a tRNA, and it brings in a specific part, which is an amino acid. It pulls up and docks right at the ribosome. Then, boom, that part gets attached to the growing protein chain. The now empty delivery truck is released, and the whole assembly line just scoots over, making room for the next delivery. It's simple, it's super efficient, and it is absolutely vital for the bacteria's survival.
All right, now let's bring in our first team of saboteurs. This is a class of antibiotics called the tetracyclines. And their strategy? It's brilliantly simple. They just block the loading dock.
So remember that ribosome factory has two main parts? Well, tetracyclines go after the smaller part, the 30S subunit. They bind right onto it, and in doing so, they basically put up a giant wall right where our little tRNA delivery truck needs to dock. And, well, if no new parts can get into the factory, the entire assembly line just grinds to a halt. Production is over.
Now here's a really important point. This doesn't actually blow up the factory. Instead, the effect is what we call bacteriostatic. All it does is shut down production. This means the bacteria can't grow, they can't repair themselves, and most importantly, they can't multiply. This gives your own body's immune system the critical time it needs to come in, find these disabled bacteria, and just clear them out.
And this leads to a super important real-world tip. You know how you're sometimes told to take certain antibiotics with water, but specifically not with milk or antacids? Well, here's why. Tetracyclines in particular love to grab onto metal ions, like the calcium in dairy or the aluminum in antacids. If the drug binds to those in your stomach, it can't get absorbed into your bloodstream to go fight the infection. The whole sabotage mission fails before it even gets off the ground.
Okay, so our next group of saboteurs, they use a completely different strategy. They don't care about the loading dock. Instead, they go straight for the factory's exit.
So this group, which includes well-known drugs like the macrolides, think azithromycin, and also clindamycin, they target the big part of the factory, the 50S subunit. And what they do is they bind right near the spot where the newly made protein chain is supposed to come out. Their whole method is to just physically block that exit tunnel. So think about it. The factory can still get parts in, but it can't get the finished product out. The entire assembly line gets totally, hopelessly jammed.
Now, even though they target the same exit tunnel, these drugs are definitely specialists. You've got the macrolides, like the famous Z-Pak, which are absolute workhorses for things like respiratory infections. Clindamycin, on the other hand, is a rock star at treating skin infections and getting deep into nasty abscesses. But it does come with a higher risk of a really unpleasant side effect called C. difficile colitis, which is something doctors have to watch out for. But of course, the bacteria don't just sit there and take this beating. No way. They are masters of adaptation. For as long as we have been designing these clever sabotage missions, they have been busy developing their own counter-espionage tactics. And this, my friends, is antibiotic resistance. And bacteria have evolved some truly incredible defenses. For example, some of them develop what are called efflux pumps. You can think of these as tiny bouncers at the door of the cell that literally grab the antibiotic molecule and just throw it right back out. Others create ribosomal protection proteins, which are like bodyguards that physically shield the factory from the drug.
and then some even produce enzymes that hunt down the antibiotic and chemically dismantle it, making it totally useless.
So this constant evolution by the bacteria, it sparked a full-blown arms race. As they develop these new defenses, scientists and doctors are forced to engineer newer, smarter drugs just to stay one step ahead.
And that's where the next generation comes in. We're talking about drugs like tigecycline. Now, these are direct descendants of those original tetracyclines we talked about, but they've been specifically re-engineered to get around those bacterial defenses. You could really think of them as the special ops of the antibiotic world.
The genius here is really in the design. So an older tetracycline might get easily grabbed and kicked out by those bouncer pumps, but tigecycline, it has these bulky molecular additions, extra parts welded on. These make it a really poor fit for the pumps, so it doesn't get thrown out. And at the same time, they make the whole drug molecule so big and awkward that those bodyguard proteins just can't shield the factory from it effectively. It is a truly brilliant piece of molecular engineering.
And the innovation does not stop there. Other advanced classes are joining the fight too. Take the oxazolidinones, for instance. They attack the ribosome at a totally unique spot, which means bacteria that are resistant to other drugs are often still completely vulnerable to this one. And then you have the brand new pleuromodutilins, which have this wild mechanism where they actually cause the ribosome's own binding pocket to clamp down and close around them, locking them into place. Incredible. This really captures the whole state of play perfectly. The arms race has gotten so specific that even within a single family of drugs, like the tetracyclines, newer versions are constantly being designed just to outsmart the defenses that bacteria developed against the older ones. It's a constant game of cat and mouse.
And that really brings us to the future. See, the battle happening inside your body when you have an infection, it's just a reflection of this massive global struggle between human ingenuity on one side and bacterial evolution on the other. So, as bacteria continue to develop new shields and new weapons, the huge question remains, what will our next generation of microscopic saboteurs even look like? And what new, unforeseen defenses will they have to overcome?